Now you may notice what we've got here is two reference plates, and it's just basically the same image texture mapped on some polygons, and we're now able to spin these around, and this is great for just getting a good reference to see the proper dimensions, the proper width, height, etc. of our model. This will allow us just more accurately model this object. So let's go ahead and take a look at the right viewport, and you can see here what I've done is zoomed in on just the area that we're going to be focusing on. So I'm going to draw a brand new NURBS curve, and just go ahead and trace the outline of this. It doesn't have to be exact, but we'll get it pretty close in there. Of course, we can move these points later if we want to, but this should do for now. And we're going to go ahead and extrude that. So let's go back to our camera viewport here, and we're just going to create a brand new surface, and we want to do this using the Extrude Along Axis tool. So click on that, and that will bring up this property page. Now what's neat about the Extrude Along Axis tool is that you can actually mix the different axes that you're extruding along. So I could say extrude along X and Z, or just X, or X and Y, or any combination in between. I can also increase the subdivision levels. So there you can see we have much more detail in here now. I can crank this down if I'd like, whatever I want to do. So it's very nice, very easy to set those levels. You can also change the length here if you want. So you really have a lot of tools inside of a simple extrusion tool, a lot of options. So we're going to extrude this along the X-axis, like so. And I'm going to go ahead and inside my layer tools here, go ahead and unhide a layer called ship. And what that really is just basically the hull of the ship and also this cylinder that's been stretched out. So we're going to use a tool now called intersect surfaces. So we'll just say we want to create a new curve where those two surfaces intersect. And the two surfaces are this one here and this one here. So we'll click on that. And now you can see right there, perfectly along the surface of that sphere, we have that curve. Now I could have used my snap tools here and drawn that curve. Could do this a number of different ways, but in this case I'm just going to use the intersect surfaces tool. Here you can set different tolerances, but we'll just keep that set to the default levels. And again, you can see I have right on here a really nice smooth curve. Okay, so now you can see we have a curve perfectly along the surface of this sphere. And I just want to show you a neat thing about the architecture of XSI. If we go and select the curve that we just drew along the surface of this texture, that reference plate, we can go ahead and move a point, or any point. And notice that everything updates. The extrusion that we pulled out from this curve changes. Also the curve that's actually on the surface of that sphere changes. And this is called relational modeling. Basically everything inside of XSI will follow relational modeling. So I'm going to go ahead now and just do a freeze operator on that curve. Select that curve and just click the freeze button. What that does is locks the relational modeling, and now this object, this curve is locked. I can go ahead and delete this, and now you can see again right along that surface is that nice smooth curve. So now to make this object here form on that, very simple. Select the object and just say deform by the curve, and then click on the curve that you want to deform it to. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this. We'll frame up here, and let's take a look at the deform tool. Here you can see I have the ability to translate this along the surface of that curve, and I also have the ability to scale it. So what I'm going to do is just simply move this to the end like so, and then use my scaling tool to extrude this out. A nice little thing in XSI is if you ever encounter a slider where you don't really have enough leeway to get perfect result you want, hold down the shift key and you can see now I can scale this much more slowly. Okay, so now let's go ahead and deform our cylinder along that curve. So to do that, very simple. You're just going to go ahead, select the object, select the cylinder, say deform by curve, and then click on that curve. And you can see it automatically snaps to the curve. If I go ahead and frame up on that and take a look at our deform tool, you can see we've made a number of enhancements here over Softimage 3D. You now have the ability to control your scaling, your roll, and your translation all within one dialog box. I can move this back and forth like so, and you can see it scales and translates along that curve. And so now what I'm going to do is just go ahead and use the scaling and the translation to position that exactly on the surface of that ship, of that hull. And you can see we also have some tools here to roll that. If we want to rotate this, we can extrude this out like so. We can extrude it out like so. Also constrain, you can constrain this to the deformer or to the deformee. So if this was animating, this would all follow along and wouldn't stretch out or anything like that. Just kind of locks it in place. So let's take a look first at some of the polygon modeling tools. Let's talk about subdivision surfaces. And we also want to talk about the mixed viewing modes within XSI. Right now we're looking at this object in hidden wire removal. And what that means is you don't see the wireframe behind the opaque portions of your model. You know, just working in a wireframe mode, it's similar to working in a shaded view like this, but allows you to still see your wireframes, etc. If we go into a mixed view, we can click on this little icon here, and we have these little options here, these little letters, and this allows us to do the following. If I click on the W icon, this brings me into wireframe mode. I can click here, and now you can see that just that object is in wireframe view. So this is called a mixed viewing mode, and it just allows you to really custom tailor how you want your scene to look, how you want to look at this inside of your OpenGL. Of course, when you render this, it'll all render solid again. But by doing that, you can see we're now looking at the inside of Manta's spaceship. If we select this chair here, we can kind of get the camera positioned in, and you can see we have her cockpit sitting there. And I'm going to go ahead and use subdivision surfaces to make this object much realistic looking. We obviously don't want her sitting in something as uncomfortable as this. If we click on our geometry approximation tab, you can see I have this little slider here that will allow me to increase the subdivision level of this object. This is really an incredible tool. It allows you to model something very basic, texture map a very basic model, and then again, just by sliding this little slider, increase the level of detail. We also have another object in here which we'll spin around to, this one right here. And this is Manta's control rig. This is, you can see she's got these little control panels on there, but it's as well a subdivision model. Actually, it's just a polygon model that we're able to subdivide. And you can see here I've subdivided a level of 3 times. Now you may have noticed I didn't go into my selection tab to access the subdivision levels for this object. Well, what I've gone ahead and done is created a custom script that basically allows me to just press the plus and minus key to increase or decrease the subdivision levels. And I can show you how I did that. In here is a custom script command. So I just created a simple little script that increases and decreases the subdivision level. And then you just simply drag and drop these to the keyboard that you want that to be mapped to. Anytime you find yourself in XSI doing a repetitive command, just cut that command into your scripting window, paste it into a button, and then register that button as a keyboard shortcut. So it really allows you a lot of flexibility with all the tools to just create these little keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to go ahead and just grab a polygon mesh sphere. Even here inside of XSI, we've done a lot of neat little innovative things. We've allowed you to change the subdivision levels, change the start and end angles so you can get partial primitives. And of course, all of this is keyframeable, so we can change this, make this grow as time goes by, or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and undo all this, and just go ahead and accept the defaults here for that sphere. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees in Z, and go ahead and now freeze that transform like so, and that'll reset that value to 0, but now it's of course locked in with that rotation in there. So now that we have our object selected, let's talk a little bit about the difference between component mode and object mode. This is actually very important, especially when doing modeling or just translating your model around or moving your model around inside the world. If I am in, say, translate view mode, and I've got my object selected, I'm going to move the entire object around. And you can see it just moves freely around inside my camera viewport, which is the view mode. If I go into local mode, it's going to use the local axis of this particular object to translate it around. So now if I hold down the left mouse button, it's translating only in X. If I move the middle mouse button, it's translating only in Y. If I go into global mode, the same thing happens in this particular case because for this object right now, the local and the global centers are in the same place. If I select, say, these 2 polygon faces, and I translate them in, say, the view mode, same thing happens. I'm able to move just those tagged faces around very easily and freely. But if I go to local mode, look what happens. This little icon right there changes from pointing straight up and down to having a slight rotation there to the left. And that's because the local axis of this particular selected polygon is facing this way. And it actually bases that upon the object's normal. So now what happens if I translate this along Y? Look what happens. No longer does it go up and down, which is what you'd expect Y to be. It goes on the same edge that that normal is oriented to. If I go into global mode, we have the same thing, only now it's going straight up and down because the global axis is pointing straight up and down. So again, if we go into global mode, straight up and down, local mode uses the normal as this axis to pull that out. And you can see we have some other orientation modes here, object mode, reference mode. This will allow you to select a different object to use its center for your pivot point or your translation point, and also a different reference plane, so you can define your own custom reference plane. Now, when you have an object selected and you're in object mode, you can see the wireframe is white. As soon as I use a hotkey to select a component, you can see the wireframe turns yellow. Now all a component is a portion of the model, so just a little piece of it. So for instance, here I can select these 4 faces and they become 4 selected components. If I go into edge mode, here I can select different edges. And if I go into, say, tag mode, here I can select different tag points, and they're also considered a component. And this is really nice as well. As I switch between edge mode, polygon mode, and face mode, you can see that it remembers which component was selected, so it has a bit of intelligence in there as well. So with these selected edges, I'm going to go into my Modify Polymesh toolbar, and here you can see all the different things that you can do to the selected component. Now I can access these tools either here in the menu bar, here in the pull-down menu, or I can just simply right-click on those components and I can see all the things that I can do to them. This is how I like to work. It just allows you to access these tools very quickly. And so for this case, I'm going to say Split Edges, and this brings up this little slider which will allow me to split these edges with however much of a value I'd like. So we'll just set this to something like so, and I'll now go ahead and select these components, these edges, and do the same tool, and we'll just kind of scale this up maybe a bit like so. Now what I'm going to do is go into my tag mode, and you can see here that it remembers the tag point that I selected earlier, and if I now right click on here and say collapse component, it gets rid of that tag point. So now what I'm going to do is select this polygon face, press the delete key, and that'll delete that polygon face, and I now have a hole inside of my model there. So now I'm going to select all of these edges that are a result of deleting that polygon, right click on here, and it's going to extrude this along an axis. Now I have the same control that I had earlier with the extrude along axis tool. I can extrude this along multiple axes, or I can just use the y-axis in this case. I can increase the subdivision level. I can also increase the length here like so. So I'm actually going to bring that into a negative value and leave the subdivision value at 1. And there you can see we've created kind of this little inlet there to our little ship controller. So let's go ahead and continue on here, and we'll take a look at the side here. I'm going to select these polygons over here, spin the model around, select these polygons over here, and we can do a number of things here. We could delete those polygons and leave a nice big gaping hole. Or we could right-click on here and bridge them together. The bridge tool is very nice. What it does is basically connects the polygons together like so. Or let's do something different. Let's go ahead and delete them again. And let's use the Draw Polygon tool. So I'm going to come over here, press the N key, and here is the new Draw Polygon tool. This is really nice. It allows you to very easily draw polygons. You can draw them out in space. You can connect them to different edges. And of course, if you look down here at the bottom of the interface, it'll tell you what the different mouse buttons will do. So here you can see it's telling me it'll connect the edge. If I click the mouse button there, you can see I've created this polygon. Here I'm going to right click, which will share this edge. Click over here, and again we've created a new polygon. I'm going to go ahead and now spin to the other side. Once again, press the N key, connect these two, right click, connect those two, and do the same thing here as well. Okay, so now let's go ahead and build the little pillars that are going to attach this to the wall. So we'll go ahead and select this polygon face here, select this one here, and we'll just go ahead, duplicate those, and extrude this along the local y-axis. And notice that it extrudes nice and symmetrically, again, because we're using the local axis. And we'll just extrude it out to say something like so. And we'll go ahead now and select these two polygons here. We'll duplicate those, pull them out. We could do it like that, or we could also, if I undo this a couple levels, let's go ahead and use the new Subdivide tool. So if we click on here, select this polygon, right click, subdivide these polygons, and now we have a number of different patterns we can choose from to add definition to that selected polygon face. So here I have the diamond pattern, the X pattern, and you can see we also have a slider to control how many iterations we get of that particular pattern. So we'll keep this in the diamond setting, and go ahead, select this polygon face, select this one, duplicate those, translate them out like so, maybe scale them down a bit. We can duplicate those, we can scale them up, we can duplicate those, pull them out, duplicate them again, we scale them down a bit, duplicate that, pull them out. You can see it's very easy to just go ahead, extrude polygons, duplicate them. Maybe we'll scale these guys up as well and duplicate them one more time, scale them up like so. And let's go ahead and do another tool. We'll use the bevel tool, pull this like so, and right click and just say bevel these components. So you get a nice looking bevel here. Here we can use the slider to control the amount of bevel that we're getting. And lastly, one more tool, we'll subdivide these again, and add the diamond shape, increase the level there. Just go ahead and select these like so, duplicate them, and pull them out. Now notice when I duplicate them, I don't really get a lot of control. I just duplicate them and extrude them out. I'm going to go ahead and undo that and show you another little command. We'll right click on here and extrude along axis. Well, this basically gives me the same ability. I can extrude those polygons out, but I have this little check mark here called merge. I'm going to go into my transform panel and just decrease the scaling a bit. And now if I go back here, click on the merge button, you can see that'll merge and unmerge those polygons. So this is really nice. You can see now I've got the edges aren't shared anymore, like so. And now I can continue to, say, extrude those out, and that is now where this will attach to the wall. So let's go ahead and close this up like so, and just kind of take a look at what we've built so far. Again, at any time, I can press the plus key a couple times. Again, that's where I've mapped my subdivision level to the keyboard. I can draw a render region and take a look at what this will look like fully rendered. So there we go. Again, a full ray traced view inside of any viewport. Okay, so let's take a look at the operator stack real quick. Go ahead and reduce my subdivision level. And you can see that every single command that I've done since I've started building this ship has been logged. So this is your complete construction history. At any time I can go back even to the very beginning. So let's go ahead to the split edge operator, and notice now if I change the value of this, look what happens right here. I'm able to still control something that I did very early on in the construction process of my ship, make these changes. At any time you want, I could go here to my bevel operator, come over here, and we can see that I can still change the operator. Notice how it changes everything after that command. If for some reason I'm happy and I want to lock this thing down, by pressing the freeze button, it goes ahead and locks this into place. Now if I look at my selection, all those operators are gone. This has been collapsed. It's now locked into place. And that's just for simplifying your geometry, creating a new lighter piece of geometry without all those operators stacked onto it. Let's go ahead and do a little bit more on here. So we'll go ahead into our layer controls. And we're going to go ahead and extrude some polygons along that edge. But let me show you one other tool really quick. If we subdivide this one, we can use this parallel edge tool, which you can see will give me more definition in here, which is kind of nice. So you can add a connecting polygon edge like so. And now let's go ahead, select these two polygons, and we will extrude these along a curve like so. So now you can see that those polygons were extruded along that curve that was there. I can increase the subdivision level. I can also go in here and scale this down a bit. If we take a look at this from the front, we can zoom this in like so, scale that in like this. And we also have that same ability to merge or unmerge these. So now you can see they're no longer connected. Go in here to my transform, scale these down a bit, scale these down a bit more, like so. And again, it's fully relational, so I can grab this original generating curve, move some points, and you can see it will move those extrusions along as well. So this is really nice just to be able to, again, do something like this while you're doing your polygonal modeling. So let's go ahead and close that up, and there you go. So we have another little connector. This is where Manta would have a couple little more control rigs hanging off of. Let's go ahead and select these polygon faces right up here. And you can see we've selected this whole front area. Let's say we want to subdivide just a local region. No problem. Local subdivision level. So now I can crank up, say, this to a value of 1 or 2. Let's leave it at 2. And also go ahead and subdivide the entire model on top of that. And you can see you get nice geometry here. You don't get any kind of artifacts or craziness. It's still a nice smooth model, except now the front of this object is much more refined than the rest of it. And again, at any time I could come over here and delete that operator, and now it's back to just the way it was. Let's go ahead and do one more thing. We'll go ahead and grab a polygon cube, like so. We'll just position that right over top of the of our model, and we'll simply say we want to create a new polygon mesh using the Boolean tool. Click on like so, and we'll use the difference. Go into our scene selection, select our original object, hide that, and also go into a mixed viewing mode. We'll turn this into wireframe, and now you can see we've got a Boolean in here. If I select this, I can now scale this down, and you can see we have very powerful Boolean tools. You can animate this, you can move this all around, and of course at any time we can still subdivide our other object. So there you have a very odd looking object, but just to kind of show you some of the power of the modeling tools within XSI. So let's take a look at the Surface Continuity Manager. It's a really powerful tool that allows you to get rid of seams in your characters. It also allows you to turn a whole group of surfaces into one nice smooth piece of geometry. So here you can see this character is made up of a bunch of different segments. And if we take a look real quickly at how we modeled those, we'll go and turn off this here and maybe turn on the curves. And just go here and show selection filters. We'll use the freeform tool just to show you how we made these individual components. We'll select a curve, want to create a new surface, loft, like so, right click, and there you go. So that's how you basically create these panels, and of course you can adjust the subdivisions. And once you've made all these panels, let me show you how we can stitch all these together. So when Shitty modeled this, he really did a good job of trying to exaggerate these seams in here, really trying to show you the power of the SCM tool. So what we can do is select the entire model, and if you look here, we have 58 objects selected. And all I need to do to turn this into one, again, because remember it's a whole bunch of different objects, all we have to do to turn this into one seamless piece of geometry is say surface mesh assemble. And just that quickly, we get a brand new piece of geometry. I'm going to move this one over here because it actually creates a second piece for you. And you can see that a lot of those seams are gone. But we still have a few more, and we can actually turn those off by just activating a checkbox. And what this will allow it to do is actually move some points to make sure that the boundaries are preserved. And now take a look. We have a beautiful, seamless character. This will render properly, no seams anywhere. It's now one nice piece of geometry. Well, what's cool here, though, is you can still select individual subsurfaces. So, for instance, if I go ahead and grab these two here, I can pull these out. Look how fast it is. It's not slow at all. You can still modify those existing pieces of geometry and just go ahead and pull that way out like this. Let me just show you that we don't get any tearing. We'll go ahead and draw a render region. It's a beautiful, seamless piece of geometry. You can throw texture maps on this as a single piece of geometry. You can put inverse kinematics chains in here, bones, whatever. An incredibly powerful tool for making a seamless character out of NURBS objects.
One of the new deformers is the new Deform by Cage, and what this allows you to do is basically use any object as a lattice. So here you can see I'm going to unhide my soon-to-be cage deformer. I'm going to select my character and just say Deform by Cage, select the cage, right-click, and you can see it automatically goes into wireframe and brings up this dialog. Now what I can do is select the cage and perhaps tag some points here. Let's just frame up on that. And if I scale these down now, you can see that that's going to affect the wrist area of the character. And I also have these sliders here that control the strength of the deformer and also the fall off. So now you can basically use any object as a cage deformer. We can now convert simple curves like these two into faces and also extrude those faces by using the new Polymesh Curves to Mesh tool. If we apply this operator, you can see that it immediately converts this to a face, takes into consideration that this inner curve is to be used as a whole, and then we have these different parameters here for controlling things like the extrusion. We can go back here to the General tab and adjust the detail level of the contours for both the inner and the outer edge of the extrusion. We also have different tessellation types that we can click on here. And also we can bevel these, so I can extrude the bevel like this, increase the height, and I can also choose different types of bevels. Here's a few options that we've created for you. Here's a nice sharp edge. You can also use this little icon here to actually define your own curve and use your own bevel. We've made a number of enhancements to many of the deformers inside of XSI. For example, the wave deformer now has the ability to have time control. So I'm going to apply the wave operator to just this local area here that I've painted with my weight paint tool. And by applying the wave operator, you can see that it's now only going to affect that local area. Well, what I can now do is also go into the time control and maybe tell this to start at frame 40 and end at frame 100. And now if I go to full screen here and play this back, you can see the animation doesn't start until we reach frame 40. EPS files, otherwise known as encapsulated PostScript files, are now easily imported just by simply selecting Import EPS File. Or another method is to minimize XSI and just drag and drop it directly into the user interface like this. Once there, you can do something like a Polymesh Curves to Mesh. You can go ahead, extrude that, bevel it, whatever you'd like to do to your graphic. With the new Link Deform tool, we're able to very easily link an object's shape deformation to any other object's orientation or any animatable parameter on that object. So here what you can see I've done is link the orientation of this bone to the shape deformation on this muscle. So to set that up on this side of the character, it's very simple to do. So the first thing you want to do is define the area that you're interested in deforming. In this case, it'll be these tag points which will make up the bicep. So tag those points and turn them into a cluster. Now with that cluster selected, simply say Shape, Link Deform with Orientation. You can also choose Link Deform With and choose from a list of other parameters other than orientation. But since orientation is usually the most popular, we set that up as a preset. So now click on the bone that you're interested in linking that to, right-click to end that selection, and you've now linked the deform to that bone. However, we need to go ahead and give it a second shape so that it can blend between those two. So let's go ahead and rotate our bone to its new position. Now go back and select some points here. And let's just go ahead and make something a bit extreme and pull these points out like this. Now, reselect your cluster from this pull-down list and store that new shape as a deform key. And just that easy, you've created this. We should now be able to have those two objects linked together. And you also have a nice slider up here which will control the fall off or the area of influence that that link parameter is giving. So it's a very useful tool for a number of different things. There's a new filter polygon tool within XSI that allows you to easily do polygon reduction. We have filter polygons and filter edges. I'm just going to quickly apply that, and you can see it automatically strips all that extra geometry off there. And then you have a slider which can even let you get more detailed if you'd like. You can base this on the incidence angle, the polygon area, and then of course with the other tool you can focus just on edges. We've made a number of enhancements in the area of proportional modeling for version 2. To bring up those enhancements, first select the model you're working with, press the M key. Now that's going to put you in normal move point mode. Now notice here I'm having the normal behavior, not having any influence on the surrounding points. However, if I click on the proportional button on the main command panel, I now have a radius which will show me all the surrounding points that the new proportional modeling command will affect. I can control the radius by holding down the R key, press the left mouse button, and move the mouse back and forth, and that'll control the radius of my brush. Now if I move a point, you can see it's going to affect a much greater area. I also have control by right-clicking on the proportional button to some other parameters. Here I can adjust the fall off, I can consider the reference either local or global, consider neighborhood, and also change the distance limit. We now have the ability to work in symmetry mode, so to do that I'm just going to go ahead and click the symmetry button on the main command panel, and now if I go and draw, say, a curve, you'll see that I'm drawing that curve symmetrically. And you can also see this nice black line here showing me the exact axis that the symmetry effect will take place on. You can go ahead and change that axis. This works for things like skeletons, so if you want to make a symmetrical character, very easy to do that. Let's go ahead and delete all this, and I'm just going to switch to a different camera. And let's go ahead and unhide our Manta character, and just show you that we can do symmetrical modeling as well. So the first thing you'll need to do is apply a symmetry map. So to do that, just go Property, Symmetry Map, and this will allow you to also choose a symmetry plane. We'll go ahead and continue with YZ, and just double-click to minimize. Now make sure this button here is checked. If that's not checked, it won't work. But with that button checked and the symmetry map in place, you can then go ahead and model symmetrically. You can go in that pull down and change the symmetry plane if you'd like. We can also, if we go ahead and apply a weight map to this, can show you that your envelope painting tools, all your weight painting tools, everything also works symmetrically as well. So even, again, envelope weights. Full support for 3D text is now available. You can find that under Model, Create, Text, and here you can see I have 3 different options, whether it be Create Curves, Planar Mesh, or Solid Mesh. Go ahead and choose Solid Mesh, and there you can see the text appear. I can change in this box down here the words I'd like to appear. I can also change the font. Any system font that's installed will appear in this pull-down menu. I can also, of course, change the size, whether it be bold or italics, and also the justification of that text. I can also change here at the contour levels. So notice as I move this slider back and forth, the geometry on the outer side of the text will change, and here on the inner side, so you have a lot of control there. We can also change the way this text is generated. We can have it generate in Softimage units, and here I have control over that as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the tessellation methods. Minimum polygon count is what we're currently looking at. Medial axis gives you quite a bit more control over the tessellation. And here we have another option, so just different ways of tessellating your text. Extrude. Full extrusion tools are available, so I can pull this in and out. If we take a look at this in shaded view, and maybe we'll go full screen here. Let's go ahead and crank these numbers back up. Let's get a nice smooth looking text, and we'll go ahead and bevel that. So we'll crank this bevel up, and you can see that bevel grows. We have the ability to change the profile. You can draw your own profile for the bevel by selecting this icon, or choose some that are pre-made here. We have one 45 degree, which is a nice angular bevel, like so. And we can also change, of course, the height of that bevel. Can shrink that if we'd like as well. And then, of course, again, extrusion and subdivision. So lots of nice new enhancements in the area of text. A new control object type can be found, and here it is. It's called the volume deform. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that, scale it down to about here, and now let's just go ahead and position it here near the front of our character. So we'll go ahead and close this up, select the geometry that you'd like to apply the deformer to, and then simply deform by volume. Select the deformer, and I can now control, let's keep this open, can move this around, you can see how that reacts. I can also rotate this if I like this. You have a start damping point here. If I pull this out, you can see how that works, like this. And lastly, you can quickly hook up and unhook the deformer by going into your component there, and you can see it's Shift V, or just go ahead and click this. So I'll first click it, and I'll just move this over here, press Shift V again, and now I can go ahead and move that. So you can see it makes a very quick sculpting tool as well. You now have the ability to scale using the volume scale by clicking volume here, and you can see the effect you get here. The object maintains its volume, but will scale still on the axis. This is just as much fun to play with as it is useful.